Alright, so we're going to get going. As you can see, there we are doing live classes at the library today. I wrote that little note up there for fun. So once I get my pen working here, we are going to draw a box or a section of any kind that you wish to have. Doesn't have to be very big. Mine are obviously large for the video, which I say every single time. Sorry about that. And then we are going to divide this box into a grid. It can be any size grid that you like. Just don't make it too small because we're actually going to be putting 4 additional squares in each one of these squares that we're going to make. So mine are kind of like maybe about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less than that. But I am just eyeballing it, so I recommend that you just practice and eyeball. If you want to use a pencil, that's totally fine. You will have to go over it again with the pen at the end, but it's up to you. And obviously don't worry about your wonky sides and bottom. If you have extra space, that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to pick a section here, and I'm going to draw 4 additional boxes. Each one is getting smaller, obviously, until it gets to the center. The reason that you want 4 is because we're going to be coloring this in. And if you have an even number of sections, then you end up with a good, black, white, black, white, black, white pattern. So I just did 4. Again, I have one really small box in the center. And these lines do not touch. I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but they don't touch. It's just 4 boxes. So as you're making your sections, if you end up having where you have a lot of space in between or a little space left in the middle, you can go ahead and add extra boxes. The pattern might be a little bit off, so I recommend that you try, if you want to just practice on a piece of scrap paper, you have to see about how big you need to make them. You really just want to try to have 4. Alright, so I have just this row done, and now on just any square I'm going to put a dot, a little dot. This is just for reference, you don't have to actually do this part. I'm going to put a dot at the halfway point on my original grid line. And then I'm going to count to my 3rd box. So this right here is my 3rd box. And I'm going to draw a line from the corner of the 3rd box to that point, and then back to the other corner. So you want to pick the 3rd box, not the 2nd or the 1st. You did the 3rd box. So it's going to kind of make this 4-sided star here around that 3rd box. So again, you're going to start right on the point for the other one, and then go right to the corner of that 3rd box. You don't have to draw those center points on the outside grid, but I will tell you that once this thing gets full, if you would have gone ahead and drawn all the boxes in each of the squares, it can really play with your eyes as to which line is actually the grid. So I recommend that you go slow and you take a look and make sure that you're drawing lines to the right spot. And the points on the side should match up with the one next to it. So you can see all my points on the right and left sides of each box, they all line up. And that would be the same on the top and bottom as well. Alright, so now I'm going to just pick a box, doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to leave this very center dot blank, or white, and I'm going to color in the 2nd box. And then I'm going to work in the star itself. I'm going to skip one and then color that, just the little section in the star black. Last one be white, and I'm going to go all the way around the star that way. I recommend that you work this way because the star will have a different pattern than the rest of the boxes, or excuse me, the outside area. So it helps to work in one section first. So now I have all these colored in. So I'm going to do the opposite. So this one here is white. I'm going to color the one on the outside of the star black. So you understand, like the outside of the box is going to have a different pattern than what's on the inside of the star. Excuse me, I said that wrong. The inside of the star will have a different pattern than the outside of the star. So now I'm going to skip one and do this outside section on this one, all black. So as you look at it, you can see that it's opposite outside of the star than it is inside. Alright, so now I'm just going to pick the next box, doesn't matter which one. So now you want the opposite of this one, so I'm going to start in a different spot. So you can see my outside of my left of my first box is black. Now the outside of this next box here is white. So I'm going to do the next section on the outside of the star and color that in black so that I know where I'm supposed to be. So from the very beginning you work from the inside out, and then after that you work kind of from the outside in so that you can get the pattern correct. There are different ways that you can change it, manipulate it. You can just color in the star and leave the outside area black. You can add color to these, whatever it is that you want. So I just recommend that you go slow and you take a look, color the box outside of the star first, and then go to the inside so that you don't mess up which ones it is. So on this one, the center of my box, very, very center box, excuse me, is colored in. When I was drawing the paper for the instruction sheet for the live class that I'm doing this afternoon, which has the same patterns that are in the video, I actually messed it up. So I'll show you a picture of that. So as you can see, I worked from the inside on all of these, and then I didn't have a way to alternate my boxes on the outside. So if you mess up, just go with it. So now on the next box here, this final one, I'm going to go back to my original pattern. So you can just look at the very first box you did if you don't want to think about it, or you can just go around and kind of make sure you're doing the opposite of each one. So that's it for the pattern for this. I'm just going to be quiet now and listen to the music. This is basically the pattern for this entire section. I think that looks really, really great. That is a very, very busy one. It's very tedious. There's lots of little pieces, but it looks really cool when it's done. So now the next one, I'm going to make another section. Oh, my pen might be dying. I think we're at class 20. I think my pen might be dying. I need to replace it. Oh well, we'll just go with it today. So the section's a little bit smaller just because I'm going to start out making a grid, and I'm just going to put a dot in each of these. If you want to work in pencil first, that's fine. Or you can just kind of go with what I'm doing. This is about a 1/2 inch. So the same space I have there, I have to do it on the when I go down to the next row. And you may have less dots than I have. It doesn't matter. If you want to get out a ruler, you certainly can. It's up to you. It does look really, this is a weaving pattern, by the way. They do look a lot better when they're actually straight, but this is kind of more of a rough one. So again, you can do whatever you'd like. So I'm just going to make my rows and columns here. Get one more at the bottom. It's not quite spaced nicely to leave that blank. Again, so you may have a lot less than I have. It's up to you. So now over the top of every dot, you're going to turn it into a little box. And I mean a little box. Like you're basically just going to trace the outside of the dot with 4 lines and then color it in really quick. So it should be a square, not a circle. Alright, so that looks really good. All of my dots have been turned into squares. So now I'm just going to pick one full column, it doesn't matter which one, and underneath the first 2 dots I'm going to draw a line from the bottom to the bottom, and the next one I'm going to do from the top to the top. I'm going to skip that one, and then do the underside and the top, skip one, underside, and top. And you're going to continue that same pattern. I'm going to skip the next column, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So you can just kind of draw your lines all the way across because one row will be the same. And you're going to go off the paper on these end ones if that's what you have. And then I'm going to do the same in the next rows here. Weaving patterns are a little bit complicated, so don't get discouraged if you mess up the first time. It's a series of knowing exactly where to draw your lines. So you're basically gonna have to think about skipping things and going top and bottom, left and right, etc. and so forth. So go easy on yourself. Alright, so those are all the first ones. Now I'm going to go vertical. I'm going to go on the left, it's going to be the right side of this box, and the left side of this box. I'm going to copy that same thing all the way down this column, because this whole column will be the same. So I'm doing the right side and the left side, and then this little teeny tiny section. Do the same thing in the second column, so not the first, I'm going to skip one and then I'm going to go to the next one. So it's basically repeating the same pattern. Oops, right side, left side, right side, left side. There we go. I'll skip one, do the next one. And you want to try to make your lines as straight as you can. That's why it helps to make that grid pretty square. If one's a little bit higher than the next, it's going to look really wonky. So on this end, I just have this one little section, so it's just going to be a couple single lines because my pattern goes off the paper, or off the section. Right, so I went in this column that I skipped, I'm going to go above the line, or on top of these squares, excuse me, and then I'm going to skip and do the bottom. And then I'm going to do the top of these 2 here, and I'm going to skip and go under in the bottom of this one. So what's in one column, you're going to do the opposite in the adjacent column. So every other one should be the same. just going to backtrack here and do these outside ones. So again, my rows will be the same, so you don't have to think too much about the rows once you get the first two in place. I'm going to do the top, across, and then I'm going to go down underneath these two and do the bottoms of these two. Do the bottoms of these and the top of that one. Alright, we have one more section of lines to do, and now it's going to be on the left side of these two. I'm just going to finish this one here, so it's going to be on the left side of these squares, and then on the right side of these squares. And again, the left. So it's going to be the right side, left side, and then right side, left side. I'm going to do that exact same thing in all the remaining columns. So you can see how it makes an over-under pattern. You can really see it now, the over-under. If any of your squares don't quite line up with your lines, you can go ahead and color those in. The original dot squares, you can just go ahead and fill those in a little bit. Alright, so there is our basic weave. This will be the same type of thing for any weaving pattern, so whether using dots or whatever. So now in any section, it doesn't matter where you start, it doesn't matter at all. I'm going to draw some horizontal lines, and the horizontal ones that are pretty close together. I want it to look like it's kind of like a bunch of pieces of yarn or string or something like that that's kind of been woven together. So all of the horizontal sections, and you can tell which ones are horizontal, all the horizontal sections will get a whole bunch of horizontal lines, and the vertical ones will get vertical lines. So you're just going to keep doing that through the entire section. You can vary. So if you wanted to add color, you could certainly add color to these rows and columns, or you can just do black. You can actually change this to be whatever you want. If you want a different pattern for the verticals or the horizontals, it's up to you. So I'm going to turn my paper because it's easier for me to draw in this way. So it's up to you if you want to do that. So again, you're going to fill in the entire section with these little close lines, and I do recommend that you get the lines as close as possible. I did on a practice page, some of my lines were a little bit further apart, and it loses a lot of the pattern if they're not close together. Alright, so there you have your woven I can't even say it, woven weave pattern. I think it looks awesome. So now we're going to grab a pencil, and the reason I'm grabbing the pencil is because I'm just going to show you it's a larger version of what we're going to draw for the border. So you don't have to do this section, you can just watch. I'm going to draw some parallel lines, and actually I need to make them longer. So I'm going to draw some parallel lines. Yours obviously will not be this large because this is just for practice. So anywhere on the section I'm going to draw kind of an arch like that, and then I'm going to go down and draw a little one. So this one's large and this one's little. Okay, and now I'm going to mimic that going the opposite. So I'm going to draw a little arch and then a large arch. So the first line is the opposite of the second line. And this little section here I'm going to color in. That's kind of like a shadow area. So it should look like a piece of string that's wrapped around another piece of string. That's what you're going to go for. But you have to make sure you arch those tops and those bottoms. So from here you're going to pretend that your string is coming out from behind. And you're going to draw an arch, it's going to be an oval piece. And it comes back and goes into the knot here. I drew a little large there, sorry. So that dashed line that I drew first, you're not going to draw that. You're just going to kind of have your pencil go across over that section. So that's what we're going to do on the bottom. Excuse me. I am going to start actually with the pencil. I'm going to draw my string first. So I'm just going to draw a wavy pattern. You can draw whatever you want. You just want to try one, that's okay. I'm not going to draw my lines very far apart. I know it's hard to see in the pencil. My lines are actually very close, and I'm going to try and get them as parallel as I can, because this is basically your piece of rope. So that looks good. So I'm going to actually just draw mine straight in pen. You can do all of yours in pencil and then go over at the end. The reason I'm doing it in pen is because it's easier to see on the video. So using the same pattern that we did on the top, you're going to draw those two. It's kind of like backwards S's, but they kind of mimic each other. And the oval around the outside, just like that. And then I'm going to go back, after I've drawn the knot, the section on the left side of the knot, I'm going to go back and draw the line in for the rope section, because obviously I'm done with that. And then go back and erase my pencil marks. You can do all your erasing at the end. I think I'll just do it as I go. So it's going to be the same thing for my next one, where I go on the top of the line, make a large arch, and then a skinny arch at the bottom, and then do the opposite of that there. And of course, if you want to practice these, just on something else before you do your final one, you can. Now I'm going to draw the left side of my rope in pen. So it's the same exact process. It kind of looks like little pretzels that you're drawing over these knots, but it's just, it's just knots. Alright, so on the very end of mine, I'm just going to draw kind of a frayed look. So it's kind of a really thin thread that comes across. and then another one comes out from underneath that, and they just sort of separate on the ends. It looks like the string is kind of coming unraveled. You don't have to do this part. You can certainly just have the knot be the end of your line. It's entirely up to you what you want. And just make sure you go back and erase all of the pencil marks that you have. Alright, so this can be done at this point. You can add little rope pieces if you want, or like little texture on there, or you can add some shading. So it'd be kind of any place that goes like where it would go under another piece of rope. You can kind of tell where that would be. You just put some light shading there, or some dark shading. It's up to you what you want to do. And of course you could put the twist marks on the actual rope itself if you wanted to do that. I'm not going to, because I think it looks kind of neat how it is. So it's up to you if that's what you want to do. I hope you enjoyed our patterns for today. Don't forget that Zentangle Untangled is also happening live in the library every Thursday from 4 to 5. If you wish to sign up, that'd be great. Have a great day.